Keanu Reeves has always been a special figure in Hollywood. He has a reputation not only as a talented actor, but also as a person with an amazing warmth and modesty that is extremely rare in the entertainment industry. It is this unique combination of external restraint and genuine humanity that attracted more and more fans to him. It seemed that fans loved him not so much for his roles in legendary blockbusters, but for the personality that sees other people not only as spectators and fans, but also as equal partners in communication. And yet, even this openness and goodwill could not prepare those around him for what would happen one evening, when at a meeting with fans, Keanu heard something so amazing and touching that his answer literally blew up discussions around the world. Nobody expected anything out of the ordinary that day. It was a typical format of communication between the actor and his fans, organized in one of the cozy press conference rooms after the screening of a new film with his participation. The room filled up quickly, and among the usual questions like, how did you prepare for the role? Which actor did you become best friends with? And are you going to star in a sequel again? The audience was given the opportunity to directly communicate with Keanu. It was decided anyone could take the microphone and ask their question. Several fans had already managed to get autographs, ask simple, pleasant questions, and hear Keanu share short stories from the set with a smile. But when a short girl in a simple sweater with a portrait of Keanu on her chest received the microphone, a premonition of something special seemed to hang in the room. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. It seemed that she had something to say that she had long been keeping in her soul. At first, the girl timidly said that her name was Amina and that she had been an ardent fan of Keanu's work for many years. At first glance, the words sounded like a standard compliment. Thank you for all your films, they have inspired me since childhood. But suddenly Amina took a deep breath, looked down and continued. You know, I thought for a long time whether to talk about this. The hall fell silent. Even Keanu, who was smiling and nodding at the moment, slightly frowned and leaned forward, showing with all his appearance that he was ready to listen to her story. Something in the girl's voice told him that the question would not be one of the simple ones. Amina nervously shifted the microphone from one hand to the other and confessed, "A year ago, I lost someone very close to me. It was hard for me to live on, and I thought that I would never be able to enjoy anything again. But one day I saw your interview, where you," here she paused to get a grip on her emotions, and continued in a slightly hoarse voice, "where you talked about how you coped with your own loss and continued to move forward. And I suddenly realized that perhaps I, too, need to find the strength to live, to rejoice, and to give kindness to people. This thought, it saved me. I began watching your films not just as entertainment, but as a source of faith that goodness exists, that these are not empty words. So if it weren't for you, I might still not have been able to get out of my depression, and I wanted to thank you." The girl's voice broke from the depth of her feelings. The hall fell silent, in which one could feel how many spectators blinked more often than usual and secretly wiped away tears. Journalists, photographers, everyone fell silent. Even Kiev, London, Tokyo. It was as if the whole world held its breath for a moment, eagerly listening to what would happen next. Keanu, known for his empathy, looked at Amina with great respect and warmth. And at that moment, she said the very thing that became the detonator of the subsequent series of emotions. "I know that you have also suffered heavy losses, and if you could say one single word of support to people who are now in the same situation as I was then, what would it be?" For a moment, it seemed that even the air in the room had become denser. The reporters' cameras worked silently, focusing on Keanu's face. Amina breathed a sigh of relief. She had managed to say what was on her mind. The security guards and organizers standing behind her seemed to freeze in mid-step, realizing that something much more was happening than a simple question-and-answer session. After all, if people usually ask for an autograph, want to hear a funny story about the backstage of The Matrix or John Wick, then hear the question touched on something personal and painful, which not everyone dares to bring to public view. Keanu, as many witnesses of this meeting noted, looked down for a few seconds, as if memories of his own losses and sore spots in the past that he is reluctant to talk about publicly flashed through his mind. You could see a shadow pass over his face, his fingers clench. It seemed as if he was fighting back tears, or at least that lump in his throat that occurs when a person suddenly comes into contact with difficult feelings. But then something happened that made many in the room feel like they were present at something truly intimate and important. Keanu took a deep breath, raised his head, and said in a quiet but firm voice, "Hope." There was still a tense silence in the room, too short an answer, some thought, but the actor did not stop. As if he was waiting for a second for the word to reach people's hearts, he continued, "Only it helps us not to give up when it seems like the whole world is collapsing. I believe that hope is not a blind belief that it will be easy. Rather, it is a decision to continue, even if it is difficult. And I am very sorry that you had to go through such a difficult path. But the fact that you are here and that you found the strength to talk about it is already a miracle. Thank you for sharing this with me." It seemed that Keanu's answer was not finished yet. He wanted to say something more personal, and indeed, he looked at the journalists, at the camera for a second, then turned his gaze back to Amina and added, "I can say to everyone who is experiencing the pain of loss, disappointment, loneliness, continue to live every morning, every moment. Give the world a chance to surprise you because goodness exists and you are part of this goodness too. We cannot turn back time, but we can make the present and the future a little brighter." At that moment, someone in the audience couldn't hold back and applauded loudly, picking up the storm of applause that immediately spread throughout the entire audience. Amina couldn't hold back. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but these were rather tears of relief and gratitude. Her question found a response, and in response she was given not just a routine phrase, but something filled with real sympathy and wisdom that only a person who has gone through great trials can give. But the amazing evening did not end there. When the official part of the questions came to an end, and the host said that, unfortunately, time was up, the audience loudly asked to give at least someone else the opportunity to ask a couple of questions. The organizers looked at each other, consulting, because the actor's schedule was always scheduled down to the minute. But then Keanu himself took the initiative. "If we have at least another 10 minutes, I would be happy to answer someone else." The audience responded with joyful exclamations, and the security guards reluctantly retreated, releasing the microphone towards the audience. Among those who were trying to ask a question, a man in a wheelchair suddenly stood up, middle-aged, wearing a baseball cap, holding a poster of Keanu, apparently printed from recent promotional photos. They let him go ahead, and he, apparently nervously, smiled so that it was clear how impressed he was by what was happening. This man introduced himself as Tom. He wanted to say thank you for the inspiration, because the Matrix once pushed him to take up cyber technology, despite a severe leg disease. But then, blinking excitedly, he added that he had a personal story that he did not know if he would be able to tell to the end. Tom admitted that his family never supported his hobbies. They thought that being confined to a wheelchair, he would not be able to achieve great success and that working in it was just a hobby. But it was the character Neo from the Matrix that inspired him to think that there is no spoon, there are no boundaries for our consciousness, which means that everything is possible. As a result, Tom went to university, studied online, became one of the leading software developers in his company, and now helps other people with disabilities adapt to the digital space. "You have no idea," he said, "how your words and your films can change the lives of complete strangers." Keanu listened to him with growing amazement and respect, and when Tom fell silent, he suddenly stood up from his chair, walked around the table where the star usually sits, and headed straight for the wheelchair, bypassing the security guards and assistants who froze in surprise. Approaching Tom, he leaned towards him and quietly said, "Mate, you have proven that the limits are in our heads. I am proud that you have achieved what you dreamed of, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't." Then Keanu smiled slightly and extended his hand, and they shook it like friends, like comrades, even though they were seeing each other for the first time. The noise of camera flashes rose in the hall. Someone was filming a video on a phone, someone was silently crying, and some were shouting words of support. Tom looked up at Keanu, stunned, as Keanu stood there, holding his hand, continuing to talk about how mental strength was more important than physical limitations, and if anyone thought otherwise, he had never encountered true tenacity. The actor also added that he would be happy for Tom to continue to grow his business, and if he ever needed support, he could ask the organizers to pass on the message to Keanu. It wasn't just a catchphrase, it was sincere and helpful. According to those present at the exchange, the atmosphere in the room was filled with incredible excitement. Several people who managed to take photos from the scene later shared the images on social media, instantly gaining thousands of likes. Someone wrote, "We have never seen such a Keanu, not only modest, but also ready to come up to you and support you at any moment." Someone added, "Please make this excerpt public. People need to know that there is kindness in this world." That same evening, the local news channel covering the premiere played a recording of this moment. From the studio commentary, one could hear, "Our city will long discuss the extraordinary humanity of Keanu Reeves." After the end of the official speeches, when Keanu was about to leave the site, the organizers asked everyone to remain calm and allowed the actor to safely exit to the service exit. But instead of leaving immediately, he again stopped by a group of fans who, for some reason, were not allowed into the main hall. As it turned out, these were young people from a local school film club who had bought tickets in advance but were late, and the security guard did not want to create a crowd before the press conference. They desperately handed him notebooks, hoping for at least an autograph. And again, Keanu showed his quality, unloved by many in the industry, but adored by fans, absolute calm and non-confrontationalism. He approached them, exchanged a few words, and left autographs for everyone who asked what projects they were currently working on, what they were watching, and why they were into cinema. The guys, stunned by his attention, vied with each other to talk about their club and how they secretly dreamed of making their own short film one day. Instead of simply saying, "Yeah, that's cool, good luck," Keanu thoughtfully asked, "Do you have a script? Have you started filming yet?" The young film buffs perked up and began explaining that their project was still in the draft stage, looking for ideas. To which Reeves responded, "That's great because in the beginning, there's always chaos and room for creativity. Don't be afraid to try different things, even if they seem weird. Mistakes are part of the process." Every movie was once just a crazy idea, and then it turned into art. The main thing is not to be afraid and not to give up. His voice sounded so passionate and sincere that the security guard, who had been waiting for Keanu to finish, found himself wanting to take out his phone and write down these words. Finally, after all these spontaneous meetings, the actor apologized, citing that he was already very tired and it was time for him to move on. When the car drove away from the back gate, the fans stood there for a long time, animatedly sharing their emotions. Someone filmed a video of Keanu coming out, talking to the guys. Someone managed to take a selfie. He could have avoided all this if he wanted to leave sooner, but he sincerely believed it was necessary to pay attention to people. This is what he always did, but on this particular evening, all this acquired extraordinary depth and power, because the events that took place in the hall set the tone for some special energy field in which everyone felt involvement, warmth, support. The next day, social networks were filled with publications and discussions. People retold the story of Amina and Tom, posted video clips with Keanu's answer about hope. Some bloggers claimed that this was the best moment of their lives because they witnessed the star showing simple human concern for the fates of strangers. Famous journalists and film critics, picking up on the topic, said, "This is more than just PR. This is an act that reminds us that you can remain human in show business." Meanwhile, Hollywood began to discuss that the new project in which Keanu was supposed to star could feature an interesting scene involving people with disabilities, allegedly inspired by a real event. The producers were silent for now. but insiders said that Reeves suggested an idea on how to include more diverse images in the script and show that even those who lack the usual physical abilities can be incredibly courageous and talented characters. Some took it as a rumor, some believed that negotiations were already underway. In any case, the news shook the film world. Perhaps Keanu is using his popularity not only to promote commercial projects, but also to bring more humanity to them. One way or another, the discussions did not subside. The video of Keanu's answer to Amina's question was watched by millions of people around the world. His words, "Hope is the decision to continue, even when it's hard," were taken apart and quoted. Many commentators shared personal stories about how they managed to survive difficult periods in life, and how important it is in such moments to hear sincere support, even from a stranger on the screen. People wrote on social networks, "We see a lot of news about celebrities who get into scandals, boast about their luxury or lifestyle. But such a performance is a real light in the darkness, which gives faith and strength." Some began to look for previously unknown examples, confirming that Keanu had long been a person for whom no one else's misfortune was worth a damn. They recalled how he once helped random fellow travelers at the airport when their flight was canceled, how he bought ice cream just to get a receipt and leave an autograph on the back for a fan, and then gave him the ice cream. People who were lucky enough to run into him backstage at some premiere said that he always shakes hands with technical staff, thanks drivers and cleaners, and never behaves like a star. This huge flow of goodwill further strengthened the belief that everything seen at the meeting with fans was not a game or a showy PR campaign, but the real behavior of a person who knows what pain is and can recognize it in other people. And judging by how warmly Keanu reacts to other people's stories, he sees in them not only admirers of his talent, but also friends whom he wants to help with words or deeds. Ultimately, the story of how one question from a girl who had survived a tragedy made Keanu open up and share his thoughts about hope, and then pushed him to genuine communication with several more people, became a kind of bridge between the on-screen character and real life. Everyone understood that sometimes the most important things happen not on stage or in the frame, but in a short dialogue where one word can ignite a new spark in the soul. This is the kind of story that will be remembered for a long time at film conferences and in online communities, not because of some stunning stunt or secret information about a new film, but because people saw something more, the spontaneous humanity and kindness that we often lack so much. And the most amazing thing is that Keanu himself probably did not expect such a flurry of interest. He simply answered questions as he saw fit, sincerely, gently, without pathos. But perhaps this is the whole secret of his phenomenal popularity. In a world where emotions and gestures are often fake, where people wear masks to stay afloat or make the right impression, Keanu remains surprisingly real. He is not shy about feeling pain, talking about loss, and at the same time does not lose hope and encourages others not to give up. And if someone asks, "So what's so special about that? Aren't there enough good people in the world?" The answer will probably be this: few world-famous actors can combine sincere goodwill with a willingness to go beyond the usual star image to become someone's real friend or mentor, even for a moment. And that is why the phrase, "when Keanu Reeves heard this from a fan, his answer amazed everyone," will remain in memory not as a loud headline from the tabloids, but as an example of how one can remain a person capable of a sincere act, simple words of support, and a warm smile. After all, no fees and no fame can replace genuine humanity. And so began this extraordinary story that continued to live in people's hearts long after the lights went out in the press room and Keanu went home. Perhaps someone who was in the room then is now deciding to make important changes in their life, remembering that evening. Someone saw the post on social media and believed that there is a place for good in this world, even if chaos rages around. And someone simply smiled, reading the story and thinking, "Yes, he really is cool." And in all this, there is definitely a special meaning that transforms us. After all, the point is not how famous you are or how much money you have in your account, but how you manage to pay attention to the person next to you in a second, feel their pain, and share a crumb of warmth. It is these moments, rare and priceless, that make us look at life and ourselves differently. And when we remember this story again, we understand that each of us, regardless of status and position, is able to make a decision, to be more attentive to the people around us, to support them with words or deeds, and not to close ourselves off in our own little world. If you were touched by the story of Amina's unexpected question and Keanu Reeves' amazingly kind answer, if you also believe that the world needs more sincerity and compassion, support this material with your like. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new inspiring and amazing stories. And write in the comments what you think about this situation, whether you have had similar cases in life when one simple word or sincere gesture really changed your mood. Your opinion, your stories are what helps us all see. Goodness lives in this world, and together we can multiply it.